Wait, I gotta get this right. Okay, back to meeting. Mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. The time now is 1 o'clock. We'll give everyone another 2 minutes to hop on and we will start our webinar at 1:02. Thank y'all for joining. Good afternoon, everyone. The time is 1:02. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining our monthly early childhood provider update webinar. We are happy to share with you some updates today. I'm Jenna Chasselin from the Louisiana Department of Education. Today, we'll be sharing some COVID-19 updates for providers, some updates around CCAP, licensing, business supports, and teaching and learning. We'll also let you all know about some upcoming events. So we'll start today with some COVID-19 updates for providers. We know that last week the governor made some changes in his latest executive order. And so we have an update from the Office of Public Health in regards to early childhood that impacts you all as providers. So we are working closely, as we have been throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, with the Office of Public Health. And we do have some revised guidance. Per the Office of Public Health, masking is no longer required statewide. However, facilities can choose to require masking for staff, families, and visitors. It is recommended that all staff continue to mask while indoors and parents and visitors mask while in the facility. Families must be allowed in the center for full access to their children to meet the teacher. It is recommended that the parent wear a mask while inside the facility. And so we're happy to bring you all those updates today from the Office of Public Health with these revised guidelines. We also have an update from the Office of Child Care regarding the COVID-19 vaccine. To help ensure the
Let me
safety
call you
of
back. I'm in
children,
class.
families, and staff, the Office of Child Care strongly encourages you to require all staff employed by child care programs to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19. LCAP, or Arpa grant funds, just a reminder, can be used to provide paid time off for staff to receive the vaccine and to recover from any vaccine after effects. These funds can also be used to provide stipends to staff to cover the cost of transportation to a vaccine site. So we just wanted you all to know those updates from the Office of Public Health and the Office of Child Care today. We also have an update from the Center for Disease Control regarding the COVID-19 vaccine for children. Effective November 2nd, just this week, children 5 can be vaccinated against COVID-19 with the Pfizer pediatric vaccine. For more specific information to Louisiana, visit the Louisiana Department of Health's website. We also have sources located on our LDOE COVID-19 landing page on our website. And we also wanted to let you all know that there are updated OPH guidelines linked here. And we are continuing to work closely with OPH on flexibilities to these guidelines. And we'll update you all as that occurs. We have some updates around our child care assistance program. CCAP conducts a monthly review of underutilized authorizations of children who have not attended childcare within the previous month. The tracking of time services, or TOTS, point of service, and interactive voice response attendance are examined as part of the underutilization review. Authorizations must be utilized by families at least once within a 30-day period to maintain CCAP certification. If CCAP children are not attending, the department will contact families to assess the need for continued child care services. If families are not reached during this period, their CCAP authorizations will be discontinued at the end of the month, and they will need to reapply for CCAP. So this is just a reminder about the underutilization process that we're currently using. I want to also just let you all know, as we do every month, if you have any questions, please go ahead and enter those into the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them once we move through all of the slides that we have prepared for you today. So as you have questions on any of this information, please feel free to enter them into the chat. The LCAP grant recipient survey is required. So CCAP certified childcare providers that received LCAP relief grant funding rounds 1 through 5 are required to complete a survey from Postal Wait and Netterville. Even if CCAP certification has ended, providers must still comply with the survey request. Participation in the survey is mandatory. Failure to complete the survey will impact future grant opportunities. Additional penalties include CCAP payment suspension and an audit of LCAP grant funds by Pnn. In addition, failure to submit this survey may result in recoupment of all LCAP grant funding and any other grant funding provided by LDOE. This survey must be submitted by the close of business on Friday, November 17th, 2021. So please, if you received a LCAP grant rounds 1 through 5, you are required to complete the survey from Postal Wait and Netterville. This is part of our auditing process that we must undergo. So we need everyone to make sure that they are filling out all of that information in the survey and submitting by Friday, November 17th. Next up, we have some licensing updates. We've talked before about some of the bulletin revisions to Bulletin 137 and 139 and how this impacts continuing education hours. There were 5 revised Bulletin 137 and 3 Bulletin 139 trainings held via Zoom in the previous last 2 weeks to train providers on the revisions. After confirmation is made of attendance and registration, providers will receive a certificate for 1.5 continuing education hours via email. So if you or anyone on your staff attended these trainings, look out in your email. You will soon be receiving a certificate for 1.5 hours. We are also assisting providers with obtaining CPR and PFA certification. Vendors must submit an initial quote asking to be added to our vendor roster and be approved prior to being paid for training center staff. The vendor must be able to provide a live demonstration to staff and receive a live demonstration from staff. Payments are not retroactive. The department is allowing each vendor to train up to 300 center staff at a rate of up to $65 per staff. Under no circumstance can a vendor who is a director or owner of a center be paid for training the staff employed at their own center. If you need more information about the CPR PFA vendors and trainings, you can feel free to email ldelicensing@la.gov. We also wanted to remind you all about the behavior management plan. So each center must develop, implement, and follow their written behavior management policy describing the methods of behavior guidance and management that shall be used at the center. We are currently seeing some inappropriate discipline within early learning centers. Please make sure that you are training all staff at your center on what is not acceptable behavior regarding behavior management. Reinforce this with staff over and over again. This is so important to the safety of our children. A reminder as well that technical assistance through Tulane and CCR&Rs is available to all providers when it comes to behavior management. We have some business support updates next. We'll start with school readiness tax credits. The SRTC forms for directors, teachers, and parents will be sent in the coming months as we end the close of the year. Eligible directors received email notifications of star rating and levels last month. Director and staff member tax forms will be mailed by January 2022. For re-leveling with Louisiana Pathways Career Ladders, new credentials and certifications should be submitted before December 31st to Louisiana Pathways. All teachers and directors who have an early childhood ancillary certificate that expires before the end of the year, December 31st, should immediately begin the renewal process via our educator certification portal. If you need any more information about school readiness tax credits, you can contact demita.walker@la.gov. We also have some additional information to share for families about childcare and school readiness tax credits. For 2021 only, the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, of 2021 has made the federal child and dependent care expense credit substantially more generous. Since the Louisiana Child Care Credit is a percentage of the federal credit, the federal changes will affect the 2021 school readiness tax credit amount for parents. This upcoming tax year, families may see this temporary change in the form of a higher school readiness tax credit. Centers must distribute SRTC forms in order for families to receive this tax credit. We will mail forms to centers the third week of December. Centers should distribute these forms in January of 2022. Once you receive the tax forms, please share this information with your families and encourage them to file their taxes. For assistance filing taxes and claiming school readiness and child care credits, please advise families to call 211 to get connected to free local tax preparers. We have published SRTC guidance on our website, linked here on this slide. And if you need any more information about school readiness tax credits, you can contact Demita here in our office, and that's demita.walker@la.gov. We also know that you all as providers have experienced a lot of changing finances over the past year that directly impact your taxes and your tax filing. We have contracted with tax consultants to provide support services to type 3 providers. So we have early childhood trained specific tax professionals who can provide up to 2 hours of tax consultation to a limited number of type 3 providers. These services are now being offered and available until June 30th of 2022 or until the contracted service hours are expended. Interested type 3 providers can complete this interest form linked here to schedule their consultation. Prior to consultation, we recommend that type 3 providers begin to collect financial documents to ensure the best use of the consultation time. If you have any more questions about this tax consultation support, you can contact shallon.jones@la.gov. We have also partnered with First Children's Finance to offer a series of advanced level business trainings and business consultation opportunities to type 3 centers. Topics include a wide variety of childcare specific issues and will be hosted at 4 different times from now until next March. Topics include a wide variety of childcare specific issues. These trainings will be Pathways approved. You can register through this link with First Children's Finance. And again, if you need any more information about these business supports, you can contact shallon.jones@la.gov. We are also working to increase automation in centers to streamline time and attendance tracking and other operations, and eventually to connect it all to the state's EdLink database. 8 vendors have been selected to be included in the CCMS guidebook. Type 3 childcare centers and CCAP certified family childcare providers will be eligible to participate in the initiative with an 80% reimbursement for up to $1,000. Later in November, the department will release the CCMSI guidebook with more information about the vendors and the process for purchasing childcare management software, and additional supports will be provided in the following months. We have some important teaching and learning updates for today. We anticipate releasing the 2020-2021 performance profiles by mid-November, including performance scores as well as informational metrics of best practices. These performance profiles reflect the flexibilities approved by BESI for sites that received at least 1 observation. We will publish performance scores based on the 2020-2021 data when those scores were higher than performance scores published in the fall of 2020. For all other sites, we will extend the 2019-2020 performance scores. The department will update all informational metrics for 2020-2021 performance profiles, and these will be released on our website, louisianabelieves.com. If you all have any questions about the performance profiles and their release, you can contact michael.bach@la.gov. This is a preliminary overview of the 2020-2021 results. And as you can see, despite all of the challenges experienced by our communities and by your businesses in 2020-2021, we have all remained committed to our shared vision of high quality early childhood education. We see continued growth in the number of high proficient and excellent sites and a continuing decline in the number of approaching proficient sites. So this is very exciting data to share with you all today. When we zoom in closer to the domain level, we see continued incremental improvements in each domain. We also see that we have continued gains to strive for in the areas of instructional support and engaged support for learning to further advance our shared focus on continuous quality improvement. Please contact your child care resources and referral agency, mental health consultants, and your community network lead agency for additional training and coaching supports in these areas of classroom interaction. The department recommends ensuring that classrooms eligible for the proposed Bulletin 140 revisions receive the same treatment and performance score calculation as eligible classrooms in the 2020-2021 school year. As in last year, the department is now proposing that classrooms that are eligible for this proposed revision, if they score 4.5 or higher on fall class observations, would have their qualifying fall class scores duplicated and treated as a proxy for a spring local observation. Classroom A, in the example on the slide, would not be eligible for the exemption because their fall score is below that 4.5 mark. Classroom A would be required to receive a spring local observation and score as well. You can see for classroom B, the other example on this slide, scoring a 5.5 in the fall would qualify for the exemption, and its qualifying score in fall of 2020 would be duplicated for spring 2022 under this temporary exemption. Third-party observations will still take place in spring 2022, and the department would use the typical replacement rules for classrooms observed. And so again, this is what was used last year, and we are proposing at this point that this is what would happen again for this year. Early Childhood Teacher and Leader of the Year. We are so excited about these new awards as our teachers and directors have shown incredible resilience through the challenges our state has faced. So we are very excited to have these new awards. All guidance documents can be found on the Louisiana Believes Awards page linked here on this slide. And the online application portal will go live on that awards page mid-November and December 1st, and the portal will remain open through January 12th. Applicants apply on their own behalf, so this is not on a nomination basis. And applicants are eligible to apply if they teach or lead a Type 3 center, an early Head Start or Head Start center, or they are a family child care provider in the FCC pilot. If you have any questions about this application process for these new awards, please contact devin.camarada@la.gov. And we want to announce our upcoming webinar. We will meet back on Thursday, December 2nd at 1 p.m. The link is here on your slide, and we will once again bring you important updates regarding to COVID-19 and any reminders from us here at the department, providing any information that we can to you all out in the field. And we will pause briefly and see if we had any questions come into the chat that we can answer.
This is increasing.
I ain't driving.
Oh, that's what Miss Turner.
All right.
I have a question.
Okay, we are currently, I know you all are looking for some of the links that were in the deck itself. So we're currently downloading this presentation and we'll enter it in the chat in just a minute so that you all have all the links that we went over today. But we do have a lot of questions coming in, which is great. And so I'll go ahead and answer some of those as we work our way through them. So one question is, how long are centers required to close if there is exposure in the center? And this is really a case-by-case situation. And so we recommend that you contact your local health department for quarantine requirements. Your local health department is really the folks who are best posed to be able to help you figure out how long and what those quarantine requirements are, because it is a case-by-case basis. We have a question about, do we still have to take parent, child, and staff temperatures as they come into the center? And so revised OPH guidelines allow flexibility regarding screening. So as far as the temperature checks and those daily health checks, those are really at your discretion, which of those you continue using at this time. But our revised OPH guidelines do allow for flexibility with temperature checks and with those daily health checks, meaning that it is ultimately the provider's decision. We will soon be posting. We are working with OPH on the exact language in these updated guidelines. So we'll soon be posting the updated guidelines to our website, but we wanted to share some of this information with you all today because we know it's really important. We have a question as well. Are parents allowed to drop their child off in the classroom now? Yes, parents are allowed to drop their child off in the classroom at this point. Parents must be allowed to come into the building. You all can still require parents to wear a mask inside if you choose. You can continue to do your curbside drop-off pickup if you choose, but you must notify parents that they can come into the building at this point. So there are some questions about when that should happen. And so you can start as early as today, but you should allow for a few days to notify your parents that they are allowed in the building. Once again, it is up to you all at your discretion if you ask your parents to wear a mask inside the building, and you are certainly still welcome to do curbside drop-off pickup as you've been doing, but you do need to allow your parents to come inside the building if they choose. They must be allowed access to their children. We had a question, is there a plan for a second round of CCAP for healthcare workers? And at this time, there are no plans to extend eligibility to healthcare workers. Our pandemic CCAP applications, we have processed and made our way through a whole lot of those here, but there are no plans to extend another round of that pandemic CCAP. We're also getting some questions about the Pnn survey. If you all remember a few minutes ago, I went over that Pnn survey, the survey that you all have received from Poster Wait Netterville, is required for every provider who has received a LCAP grant at this point. We need everyone. This is part of our auditing, part of our reporting. We have to have all providers who received those LCAP grants to complete the survey that you all have received from Poster Wait and Netterville, or Pnn. And so we are dropping in the chat what the email address that you can email if you have not received that survey, or if you feel like you missed a survey or you haven't completed it. It was already due. We have extended that application deadline to November 17th. We know how busy everyone is at this time of year. We thought it was really important to extend it because we need everyone to complete this survey. And so we are dropping that in the chat. You can go ahead and email them at info@ldoe-pnsurvey.com. If you have not obtained a copy of the survey, or if you missed it in your inbox, go ahead and email them and they will send you what you need. Okay, we do have a question. Have the LCAP surveys not been released for type 1 centers yet? And this is correct. So there is only one LCAP grant survey that has been emailed. Some folks, I think, are wondering if there is an original and then a second. There is only one. So today what we're asking is if you have not at all completed that survey from PNN, we need you to complete it. If you have already done it, then you can check it off your list. There is not a second one. You've gotten it done. You're good. But if you have not completed any survey from PNN, we need you to complete that original survey. There is only one. We have a question about ARPA allowability and usage, what you all can spend ARPA grant funds on. Can a center use the ARPA grant to give employees a one-time stipend to get the COVID vaccination? We will link for you all what the ARPA funds may be used to provide. There is some allowability in how you can provide assistance to staff in obtaining COVID vaccinations. We also have some folks who might have missed that Bulletin 137 and 139 training, and you all are asking, will it be offered again? So next week, the Division of Licensing will conduct an additional Bulletin 137 regulations training. If needed, if we hear that you all need it, we will conduct one additional Bulletin 139 regulations training. The invitation will be sent from LDE licensing at la.gov. Please check your center's email account that was shared with the Division of Licensing, because that's where we'll be sending that invitation about the Bulletin 137 and possible Bulletin 139 regulations training. And I believe we have put a copy of this presentation in the chat for everyone to access so that you can get at those links that we've been talking about. We have a question as well about LCAP grants. So as a reminder, we did do 5 rounds of LCAP grants. And then we began our ARPA grants. And the ARPA, we did release ARPA round 1 is the latest grant that was released. It is a very large grant and it was released in July. We anticipate the last round to occur in spring 2022. And if you all remember, that decision was made after a lot of feedback from you all that it would be more helpful to receive the grants in larger lump sums rather than a series of smaller grants like the LCAP grants were. These ARPA grants are really smaller grants combined so that you're getting a larger lump sum at one time, because you all told us that that was easier for you to manage, for you to file in your taxes. And so you've received that ARPA round 1. And we anticipate ARPA round 2 to come in the spring of 2022. If you have any further or more specific questions about the LCAP grants, the ARPA grants, how much you have received, you can place a ticket in the provider ticket system. All right, and we still have a few more questions coming in, so we'll pause one more time and then hop back on and try to answer your final questions for today.
K-Love music sounds like this.
I got lost.
What was your address?
All right, we have so many wonderful questions coming in today, so we will take a stab at answering a few more for today. Just wanted to repeat once again that parents must be allowed in centers. At this point, you all can still, have that drop off and pick up as you have arranged, but parents need to know at this point that they are allowed inside the center. You all are very welcome if you choose to require them to wear a mask in the center. That is up to you. But they are allowed in centers at this point. So parents must be allowed in centers at this point. We have a question. Are we still to send in a critical incident form for when a child or a teacher tests positive? Yes, critical incident forms still must be completed and submitted when a child or teacher tests positive for COVID-19. And just a reminder again, as you have any of these situations occur, you should contact your local health department for steps to take around quarantining and quarantine close contacts. So as you have any of these situations, your local health department are the people who are really best posed to help you with the time and the people, those requirements around quarantining. We had a question come in about CCMS. So if you already use Brightwheel, how does the reimbursement cost go? So just to clarify, Reimbursement cannot be offered for existing CCMS contracts. Reimbursements are only available for new CCMS subscriptions. We had a question come in about performance profile results. So I just wanted to clarify on this a little. We had someone asking, what if your score went down? Can we pick the higher year? And so as a result of COVID, a few months ago, Bessie approved flexibilities, allowing the department to publish performance profiles from 2020, 2021 observations, only if these scores are higher than the scores that have previously been published. So if those 2020, 2021 observation scores are not higher, the department will extend performance scores published last year for 1 additional year. So I also wanted to clarify, a few minutes ago, we had a question come in about health checks. And so I wanted to clarify 2 differences here. I think the question was really about the mandatory daily COVID screening. And so I wanted to clarify that our new OPH guideline revisions that we will soon post to our website allow some flexibilities around that mandatory daily COVID screening. So those are going to fall much more in your court, whether you choose or choose not to complete those COVID daily screenings for staff and children. What is still absolutely required and required in policy are the daily health checks for our children. So it's so important that we're making sure that our kids are safe and well on a daily basis. And so those daily health checks are required in policy. So we still want everyone to be super aware of the health and safety of our children. So the daily health checks that have always been in place are still there, still required in policy. We still need everyone completing those, but the daily COVID screenings are no longer required. All right, I think we have a few other really specific questions that we are answering in the chat. We had a great question about what is the difference between Bulletin 137 and Bulletin 139? Why do we even talk about these 2 different bulletins? But Bulletin 137, for anyone curious to know, mandates the health and safety standards for licensed child care center providers. Bulletin 139 cites regulations for registered and certified CCAP providers, including family child daycare homes, in-home, and type 3 centers. So we are working on just wordsmithing a few last things with the Office of Public Health about those updates to public health child care guidelines. And so we are working closely with OPH. We will soon have those updates posted on our website. Until then, you all can feel free. The major updates we presented in today's webinar. So you all, we have the deck in the chat today. And so you can use this webinar deck as your updated guidelines. We will be posting those just as soon as we can. We have some more questions about what the Arpa grant can be used for. And so we'll go ahead and drop in the chat the link. If you have some questions about what you can spend those ARPA funds on, page 5 of the worksheet, plan for spending the ARPA payment, will help guide you on what the ARPA grant can be used for. Okay. So with that, we will go ahead and answer a few last lingering questions in the chat for anyone who had some really specific questions that they needed to know. And thank you all for joining today. We hope to see you all back here in another few weeks. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you all for joining.
You're welcome.